frightened me because I didn't know she had the seizure. She blanked out apparently, and she came back.
When I peeked my head through, this student was having a seizure, and when he was moving, his head was hitting the concrete wall.
The rest of the class was not so much fearful, but concerned. You know, what's going on? What does this mean?
Seizure disorders, also known as epilepsy, appear in many different forms. About 300,000 young people in this country have epilepsy. At one time or another, most educators will have a student with a seizure disorder in class. A seizure is a brief, disruptive discharge of electrical impulses in the brain. It may involve the whole brain or just part of it.
So anything the brain can do, people have to realize it can also do in the form of a seizure. That's why seizures can appear in so very many different forms. Seizures can be staring, seizures can be movement, seizures can be just a funny feeling in your hand. Seizures can also be the generalized tonic-clonic grand mal convulsions that people tend to think of.
With regular use of medication, most young people with epilepsy get reliable seizure control. However, it is always possible that a seizure may occur. That's why it's important to know how to recognize different types of seizures, how to provide first aid for a student having a seizure, how to make sure that student reaches his full academic potential, and how to promote self-esteem in that adolescent and understanding by his peers.
I think it is that you have a student, a human being in your classroom, and you should be concerned about the human beings.
Myths and misinformation about epilepsy create fear. Epilepsy is not a disease, nor in any way dangerous to others. It's not contagious. It's not a form of mental illness, nor mental retardation. The seizures most likely to be seen in school are absence, simple or complex partial, and generalized tonic-clonic. Teachers may be the first to notice that teenagers are having absence seizures, sometimes called petit mal. Absence seizures are brief lapses in awareness that begin and end abruptly. This girl is having an absence seizure.
Sabrina, talk to me.
What? I'm fine. I always tell my mother this. I'm fine.
In an absence seizure, generally the concept is that they're disconnected for a few moments. They're very likely to pick up exactly where they left off, but generally speaking, they do not know what is happening in that 3, 4, 5 second period of time.
This girl also has absence seizures, and you will see her have one as she's talking.
They take back that statement because he can be as heavy as ever.
And there's a real blankness, a vacant look in the eye, and then all of a sudden they're right back with you and able to engage.
Oh, pardon?
Sorry?
Absence seizures usually require no first aid. However, they should be reported if seen for the first time. Any information the student missed should be repeated. Partial seizures involve only part of the brain. A teenager may experience changes in hearing, smell, and sight. She may have strong emotional sensations, such as fear or anxiety. A part of the body may twitch uncontrollably. This young man is having a complex partial seizure, and his consciousness is impaired. These seizures are the most common form of epilepsy in teenagers and adults.
You want me to call him like I usually do?
Kevin? Kevin?
I believe it's important for teachers to be aware of what happens when a student has a seizure, and to also be cautioned against jumping to conclusions that the student's behavior may be drug-induced or may be caused by lack of interest in class.
Kevin? 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 Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Complex partial seizures may create a variety of automatic movements or behaviors, such as this young woman is having. She cannot control these movements, nor is she aware of them. The movements of her hands are automatic. They look like deliberate movements, but they're not. They're part of the seizure. Her awareness of her surroundings is clouded.
They may seem to be sort of vacant, staring away, and then they begin moving around, perhaps picking at clothes, wandering rather vacantly, sometimes pushing people away because they're essentially in a rather confused kind of a state.
Complex partial seizures last only a minute or two, though the teenager may feel confused for a while afterward. It's easy to mistake them for behavior problems. If restrained abruptly, the adolescent may strike out in a reflex action, which may look like fighting. In managing these seizures, it's important to be calm, reassuring, and make sure the student is not in any danger.
Gently directing so that they don't go out the door, down the stairs, somewhere where they could be into trouble. Sometimes all it takes is being smart and closing the door and letting the youngster wander around the classroom. Important probably not to do a lot of direct interaction because the youngster is confused and may well not understand the good motives.
After the seizure is over, help reorient the student to the classroom. If there's been no history of seizures, it's important to inform the school nurse and the parents. The seizures most people think of when they hear the word epilepsy are generalized tonic-clonic seizures, often called grand mal. They affect the whole brain and the entire body. The tonic phase is the stiffening of the muscles. Then the jerking movements begin, the clonic activity that you see here. It happened to Russ Burkhart in class.
Mr. Ehrenberger, my science teacher, was explaining something, and right down to the very last second, I remember everything, and then I just blacked out, which I thought I did.
And all of a sudden, I was up in the front of the room and crashed to the back of the room. And looked back, and Russ was on the floor. He was in a full seizure when I got back to him.
Tonic-clonic seizures rarely last more than a few minutes. A person having one isn't conscious and won't remember what happened. The skin may become pale, breathing may seem shallow and labored. Sometimes a teenager may lose bladder or bowel control, or vomit as the seizure ends. These seizures may look painful or even life-threatening, but they're not. They end naturally after a minute or two.
The chances of a child actually dying in the midst of a seizure are very remote, very, very unusual. And I think it is not something that a teacher needs to be generally concerned about. It is exceptionally rare.
The basic role of the teacher is to keep the child safe. If he's sitting in a chair, you ease him to the floor so he doesn't fall to the floor. You move objects away from him that may cause him injury or hurt him while he's having a seizure. And then just be very supportive and be calm during the seizure.
Once he's on the floor, turn the student on his side so that saliva runs forward and the airway is kept open. Loosen any clothing that may restrict breathing. Gently cradle his head in your hand or put something soft, such as a sweater, under his head. Do not hold him down or forcibly restrain him. This can cause injury. A persistent fear with these seizures is that the person will swallow his tongue. This simply is not true. The tongue is attached to the bottom of the mouth and can't be swallowed. Nothing should ever be forced into the mouth. That could break his teeth or cut his mouth. Usually, it's not necessary to call an ambulance for a tonic-clonic seizure, but there are a couple of exceptions.
An ambulance should be called if the seizure lasts for longer than 5 minutes, if the seizure goes from one seizure into another without stopping or without the student regaining consciousness, or if there is no known history of seizures in that particular student.
After a tonic-clonic or complex partial seizure, some students are confused, sleepy, or need time to rest, but others may recover more quickly and can stay in class. Recognizing seizures and performing first aid are ways to manage epilepsy in school. But it's just as important to help with psychological or social effects. A sensitive teacher can make a big difference in how that adolescent deals with his seizures and how other students react to what has happened.
To talk with the students as soon as possible after the seizures, to share with them what epilepsy is, what happens, that the child is going to be okay, that it's not something that's contagious.
So you would have to let them know that it is a malfunction of the brain and that it could happen to anyone.
The student who had the seizure can be part of the educational process for the class.
The class was super. When he came back, they were, very open with him, and Russ talked.
I don't think I should get any special treatment just because of this, just because of epilepsy. I think I should just be treated as the same. It's just I fall down and move around for a minute or so.
Unless restrictions are imposed by their physician, most young people with epilepsy can participate in all school activities. This is true even if the seizures are frequent and severe, or if other disabilities are present. In most cases, vigorous physical activity, including competitive sports, does not increase seizures. It does increase self-esteem and confidence.
And when a child is taken or kept from an activity that usually has potential for doing more harm than what it was intended for, the student is not included. He's not able to be included. And peers look at this as now as a potential outcast.
One of the worst things that happens to children with seizures is a concept of overprotection, making them into what we call a vulnerable child. They then begin to doubt their own abilities.
Many teenagers do well once seizures are under control, but epilepsy may still influence school performance in subtle ways. Seizures can affect memory, attention, or certain processing skills. Medication for seizures can also affect memory, slow down response time, or cause fatigue, especially at the beginning of treatment.
The first week and a half, I had these like sudden rushes of just tiredness. Just be energetic for one moment and just be awake for a second.
A lot of class time may be lost because of doctor's appointments and tests.
So it's important for the teacher to be helpful in either providing tutors, a fellow student can tutor the child with epilepsy, or such things as remedial work after school, or even summer school to help assist that student in getting caught up to the level of the other students.
Mr. Ehrenberger, my science teacher, he told me some helpful advice for a quiz I had to make up. And Mr. Troya, my algebra teacher, he helped me like really hard. I almost forgot the material, so he helped me review and everything, and I think I did pretty good.
All right. Then you're going to take the ruler after you drop. Go ahead and drop. Boom. All right. Now take the ruler before you dig it out.
Tutoring or changes in medicine may improve school performance. If not, it may be time to try something else.
The responsibility of the classroom teacher is to be aware of some of the discrepancies in learning that may surface, behaviors or performances on classroom tests or classroom activities, and to refer that student to counselors, psychologists. Students would be given educational tests, psychological tests, medical examinations, could involve audiograms, and also social histories, so that the student is looked at as a total person.
For thousands of young people, epilepsy is part of their school experience. Some will need lots of help, others not so much. But all students with epilepsy have a right to an environment where people understand their disorder and where people accept and include them in all aspects of school life.